He sits beneath an old oak, the kind that turns centuries into ordinary shade, and says the one thing nobody can afford to ignore: time is up unless we make it count. 5 years ago, when he first announced the Earthshot Prize, 2030 felt like horizon talk. George was 7, Charlotte 5, Louis barely out of a cot. A decade looked roomy, elastic, forgiving. Today we are halfway through that decade, the clock is loud, and the Prince of Wales is done with polite euphemisms. Now, more than ever, is the time to fix the planet. Not someday. Not after the next election, the next budget, the next crisis. Now. Welcome back to the channel that tracks the monarchy not for the uniforms, but for the utility, where we ask whether the crown is earning its oxygen in a century that charges rent for attention. Tonight we go inside William's newest call to arms and meet the Earthshot finalists he calls heroes of our time, the teams turning impossible into inevitable. If you've ever wondered what royal influence looks like when it drops the balcony and picks up a blueprint, this is it. Let's start with the spine of his message. 2030 is not an abstract year, it's a verdict. By then, the changes we lock in or fail to will set the climate's trajectory for the rest of our lives and our children's. That's not drama, that's physics. William frames it not as doom, but as duty. He talks about his kids because he understands the only argument that breaks through fatigue is the personal one. Will the world we hand George, Charlotte, and Louis be smaller, harsher, meaner, or cleaner, safer, more abundant? He's done pretending that later is a plan. Later is how coastlines move, how harvests fail, how health systems buckle. Later is how you apologize to the future with a straight face and a dead voice. So he refuses later. Enter the Earthshot finalists, 15 problem solvers from across the map who didn't ask for permission to be useful. You can hear the theme that binds them: urgent optimism. The phrase sounds soft until you watch what they do. Urgency without optimism is paralysis. Optimism without urgency is a lullaby. Together, they become a lever. Think of the coral builders pouring living cities back into bleached seas using low-energy mineral accretion and community divers trained as stewards, not spectators. Think of the circular economy wizards who turn agricultural waste into bio-based packaging that dissolves back into soil like a good apology. Think of wildfire prediction systems that fuse indigenous land knowledge with AI to stop catastrophe before the first camera crew arrives. Think of microgrids in villages that leapfrog the fossil era with pay-as-you-go solar, turning energy poverty from a sentence into a memory. Think of city retrofits that stop heat islands from cooking entire neighborhoods: white roofs, shade canopies, porous pavements, trees with roots deeper than press releases. William's Oak Tree Manifesto isn't poetry, it's procurement. Earthshot doesn't exist to write congratulatory speeches, it exists to scale. Money, mentorship, media, market access, those are the 4 limbs of impact, and the prize puts muscle on them. You win, and suddenly a pilot becomes a program becomes a policy becomes normal, and normal is where revolutions go to live long enough to matter. Change for good, he keeps saying, and it is not an accident that the phrase echoes his broader plan for a smaller our royal. A monarchy that does less theatre and more throughput pairs perfectly with an environmental agenda that swaps slogans for supply chains. It's why this year's ceremony landing in Rio de Janeiro matters. Not just spectacle, symbolism with teeth. The Amazon is where global climate math meets local survival, where illegal logging, legal indifference, and indigenous guardianship collide. To plant Earthshot on that stage is to say, solutions are not a European parlor game. They are global, gritty, multilingual. Listen carefully to the subtext when he calls finalists heroes of our time. He is redefining heroism away from capes and toward competence. A hero is a farmer who learns regenerative methods that keep yields up and inputs down. A hero is a materials scientist who makes cement that traps carbon instead of belching it. A hero is a mayor who rips out a vanity project to fund buses that actually arrive. A hero is a fisher who switches gear to stop killing bycatch and gets paid for the stewardship, not punished for it. And yes, a hero is a teenager who asks her parents, at the checkout, where that bargain t-shirt was stitched and whose hands were tired and how old they were. If you want the quickest route to 2030 that isn't a horror movie, start calling those people what they are: leaders. William talks like a father because that's the angle that keeps him honest. He admits the decade shrank the way childhood does: one school concert, one lost tooth, one too fast summer at a time. That's how climate time shrinks too: one broken temperature record, one fire season that never ends, one flood that was supposed to be once in a century but arrives 2 summers in a row. That mirroring is the quiet genius of his pitch. If family life has taught him anything, it's that the essentials don't negotiate. Kids need clean air more than they need commentary. They need water that doesn't make them sick more than they need speeches about complexity. They need a planet that isn't a roulette wheel more than they need another headline. So what exactly are we backing when he asks us to back the finalists? We're backing technology that already works, rules that can be written, habits that can change by Tuesday. And we are backing a method: identify, celebrate, accelerate. Jason North, Earthshot's CEO, calls the decade a window of opportunity. Windows close. This one will, too. Which is why the work has to outpace the news cycle. A prize is only as good as the contracts it catalyzes, the offtake agreements it unlocks, the government pilots it midwives, the community jobs it seeds. The team knows this. It's why follow-through is baked into the prize's bones. Let's be blunt about what this isn't. It isn't a soft focus montage designed to make you cry on a Sunday night and forget by Monday morning. It isn't royal greenwash, too much risk, too little reward for that old mistake. It isn't scolding. William's message is sterner and kinder: don't beat yourself up for yesterday, choose better today. Don't carry guilt, carry a shopping list. Vote for policies that build grids you aren't ashamed of. Ask your company why its sustainability report reads like a bedtime story. Reward leaders who treat climate like infrastructure, not ideology. And yes, there is a politics to this, but not the kind you think. It's the politics of procurement and zoning and permits, the dull, daily places where progress either dies of boredom or lives in spreadsheets that turn into cranes, crews, and clean air. Earthshot's optimism is urgent because optimism without deadlines is a hobby. Urgency without solutions is theatre. The prize welds the two into a timetable. William's critics will say hope is not a plan. They're right. That's why the plan comes with money and mentorship and the kind of amplification that reroutes attention to people who deserve it. Watch what happens when a finalist gets oxygen, a government minister returns a call faster, a skeptical investor decides not to be the last one in, a school district gives the pilot a wing, a coastal community votes to protect the mangrove forest because it now has a number attached to flood savings. Suddenly environmentalism stops sounding like sacrifice and starts looking like self-respect. The oak returns at the end, as it should. Trees are the original teachers of patience. They don't tweet, they sequester. They don't trend, they hold. Sitting beneath one, 5 years on, the prince says the line that should haunt and hearten us in equal measure: 2030 is how our children will judge us. Not by intentions. By outcomes. Did the air get cleaner in the neighborhoods that couldn't afford filters? Did the buses show up where cabs never did? Did the food system stop burning rainforests to sell cheap calories? Did our roofs finally work with the sun instead of against it? Did our cities cool down, our rivers run clearer, our bills fall because waste fell first? Did we deliver any of the abundance we keep promising when election seasons arrive and disappear? The finalists he unveiled have already started to answer yes. Not everywhere. Not enough. But more than yesterday. And more again tomorrow if we fund them, hire them, copy them, compete with them, and when their ideas stall, fix the bottlenecks without throwing up our hands. That's what urgent optimism looks like when it grows up. Not a mood, a practice. So here is the ask, from Windsor's shade to your screen. Don't applaud and move on. Pick a behavior and change it. Pick a project and back it. Pick a headline and read the second paragraph so you know who to email and who to elect. If you run a business, make the sustainable option the default so laziness works for the planet for once. If you teach, make climate literacy as ordinary as long division. If you parent, let your children see you do one thing, just one, that matches the world you keep promising them. A decade was the plan. 5 years remain. The oak will still be here in 2030. The The question is whether the rest of us will be able to sit beneath it without making excuses. William has set the tone, the finalists have drawn the map, the ceremony in Rio will hand them a louder microphone. The rest is not pageantry. It's us.